guys like working together to come up with interesting recipes together, or and maybe I'm getting too far into secrets of the castle here, but are you guys kind of like working together since you're going to be sort of sharing space in marketing and stuff?
We're definitely keeping that as something to once we're established. We're not from the beginning launching with okay, let's mix my beer with your mead or these things right from the get go. But that's definitely something that we're going to be once we're established. We're trying to bite off sizable chunks rather than trying to start with 50 projects and finish them. None of them. We definitely want to in the future. I've also talked to a couple other local establishments. There's a place in Connecticut, Hartford Flavor Company. Mm-hmm. He does a lot of. It's hard to describe exactly what they are, but they're almost sort of pre-made cocktails, and he does different flavors. And I had done a tasting this summer with my meads, and he was there. And after having tried a couple, he already had. You could see the gears turning, and he poured some of my mead in with one of his, and tried it, and it was phenomenal. So he said once we're up and going, that he'd definitely like to do some collaborations.
Nice.
So, and not quite with what you'd asked, but there's definitely some things out there, to try and make it more widespread.
Well, yeah, and you're already getting that, toehold in some of the different areas. There's so many different directions you can go with this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's really neat. When do you guys? I mean, when is the projected opening? Do you have a date yet, or is it more kind of a sometime in the middle of the year thing?
It's summer 2017 is what we're kind of moving along with right now. It's really hard to say. As I'm sure everyone knows, the licensing can be very fickle. So it's going to be a matter of that. We're still actually waiting on a lot of the zoning from the town, just because they're very. The town of South Windsor we're going into is a wonderful town, but they're very well regulated. So we have to make sure that everything is with their guidelines and make sure that everybody is happy before we can move forward.
Are you having to get any zoning changed, or just making sure that what you're doing with what the area you've got is zoned as already is going to work?
We're trying to make the work with them and make sure that we can get the zoning that we need. I think that we're going to be able to zone what we. I don't think we're going to have to change anything at this point. But like I said, something could change tomorrow. I could get a call and find out that we're stalled out because of some reason. But as far as I know, right now everything is going fairly smoothly. It's just a matter of making sure that the codes and laws are all being followed.
We've had David, who is very quiet, on the line with us, and he's actually, David, you're going to open a meadery at some point, right?
Well, that's the plan. I always say I have a 5-year plan, which probably translates to 10 years.
I hear you.
So I was just kind of wondering if from somebody who's got that, even if it is still on the horizon rather than right in front of you, to somebody who's in the middle of the mess, as it were, that you might have some insights and ideas of things that are going to come up between two incipient meadery owners.
Well, I'm so experienced, I don't really know a lot, but...
It's as far as my end, it's make sure that you've got, reliable. If you can fund it yourself, wonderful. But make sure that whoever is funding you is going to be understanding that things are, going to move along at the pace they move along at. Luckily, my uncle, wonderful man by the name of Jeff Hughes, is my backer, and he's been one of my biggest fans from the beginning. Every Christmas I end up giving him a bottle of my mead, and it's generally his favorite present every year. And he just, has been wonderful as far as supporting me and letting me know that it's not really, a worry that everything's behind schedule, because originally we were hoping to be open in March or April, and at this point that's, almost impossible to pull off. I mean, even if I started brewing right now, it would barely be available for March. So that's one thing I got to say, and make sure that if you are working with, you have a good relationship with whoever you're running the building with, or going to be nearby. And to, like I've said a couple times already, just start out manageable, and you can always expand. It's a lot harder to scale things back, or to tell customers, have to explain to customers, oh, we're not going to be able to do that.
Yeah, my most of the meat makers I talk to say the same thing about, if you plan to open this year, really you're opening in the next year after that, if you're lucky.
Yeah.
And I do understand about the backers. People who invest are really impatient to get a return on their money. That's why I'm really hoping to keep it in the family. Me and my brother-in-law kind of want to do this.
Yeah.
Hopefully we could keep it between us, because he'll have an understanding too. I kind of taught him everything he knows about meat about 3 years ago, and he's just about to surpass me on it. I keep trying to tell him I didn't teach him everything, but the truth is he's doing quite well. But fortunately for me right now, he's overseas earning that big government money, so hopefully that's going to be a good incentive to get going when he comes back stateside.
Tell him to try making mead from honey packets and MREs. That'll get him going for making mead at home. Worked for
Oh, dear God.
That was
Oh, God.
when he was stuck in the sandbox.
Well, he's in customs. He's in a pretty government-funded or government-paid-for condo that, if it came up for sale where he's at, would be 7 figures.
Oh, golly.
Oh,
Must
wow.
be nice.
Yeah.
I'll have to tell my son-in-law about that. He's thinking about going into customs.
But, I don't think the government pays that much. They've got to deal with the American government to where the rent is doable. But, if the landlord were to sell these condos instead of leasing the government, they would make a ton of money, apparently.
Well, and if he's in Europe, he's in a perfect position to, fetch you mead.
He should be doing
He
research.
should be.
Right, but he's in Singapore.
Not so much with the research, then.
Not so much with the research, then. Yeah, as far as I know, there's only like one mead in Singapore. Who was just over there? It wasn't Frank Goldbeck. It was Jeff Herbert. Superstition was in Singapore, and he and his gang were over there meeting with people over there who were interested, and it was a food place that was going to be serving mead. And I ended up getting into a conversation with one of the guys from the area, and he was like, yeah, no, the only stuff we get, even our honey, comes from Malaysia. So.
Yeah.
And Rob said he couldn't find any local honey when he was there, so. Oh, look, we're Hamished. How cool.
Good evening, all.
Hello?
Hey, Hamish.
He's eating a sandwich and on the phone.
Nah, pizza.
Oh, pizza. Oh,
Pizza.
okay, well then.
Well, one of the things that Gary had talked about, which really perked my ears up, was eventually starting a restaurant along with the meadery. And that's one of the things I've always talked about, is every time I go to a winery place, all they have is a cheese and cracker plate, and, by the middle of the day, I want food.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's
I guess
definitely... sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Gary.
I was just going to say, it's definitely something I've also always noticed. Food is one of my main motivations, aside from generally alcohol. In that I always
He's a simple man
want
with simple needs.
exactly.
Well,
I want a
they
burger
go
or
so well
something.
together.
But yeah, I mean, if you go to have a glass of mead, and I've done this on more than a couple of occasions, did it while I was in Washington at my daughter's. I was out hitting a couple of meaderies my last couple of weeks before I had to come home. And there's this one in, I think is it Tacoma? No, it's in Olympia, called the Skep and Skane. And it's like a little micro, I think they do beer and mead there. I tried their meads, and their meads are really good, but I thought they had food. So I didn't eat lunch. So I drank like a pint of mead, and I come reeling out of there. I have to go sit in the car for a while, before I can. I'm going to go, it's like, okay, I'm going to walk over here and get a Subway.
I guess you probably need to check the regulations in your area, too, because I don't know if that's even allowed where I am, because I never saw anything of the sort where, when I was doing a tour of the Niagara on the lake area, looking at all the wineries there.
Well, I
You know, pretty much cheese and crackers was all they had, and every now and then, like, I'm on some of their email lists, and they say that they have, a courses or something where they have a chef come in and do stuff, but none of them actually served food.
Well, a couple of things that I've seen at a number of meaderies and breweries that I've visited that don't serve food is they have a partnership with local eateries. There's a place there's a place right here in Wake Forest, the next town over. It's the local brewery, White's Brewery. Shout out to my brewery guys. And they have a deal with a couple of local eateries right there on the main drag, just a couple blocks away, and you can, order the food and they'll bring it to you. So like there's a Domino's down the street. So you want pizza? Great. They've got a pizza ordering thing, and you can order your pizza and they'll just bring it right to you, and you can have your beer and your pizza right there. And then there was another place in when I was at UC Davis a couple of years ago. I was right there in Davis, and it's a pub. Basically, they don't have food, but they had an amazing selection of meat and beer. So we always ended up gathering there after the classes because it was just really cool and lots of choices. And they actually had a menu there that was kind of like a Grubhub menu, only on paper. So it had like several local eateries, and you could just go through there and pick out what you wanted, pick up the phone, and you'd call them, and they would just bring the food and deliver it to you right at your table right there in the bar. And they had everything from pizza and burgers to Indian food, and yeah, it was really cool. I got like some tom kha soup and I forget what all else, but I had a lovely meal to go with my beer, so it was really great.
Yeah, I think that, and as far as I know, there's no real problems within Connecticut. I know there's more than a few places that do. The places themselves don't necessarily have the facilities, but they'll bring in local food trucks. A lot of places they'll pair with them, or like you said, they'll have delivery options. In Connecticut, there's a lot of travel distance, so a lot of times there's not as much delivery, but food trucks have been popular here in the last few years.
Yeah, they're getting big here too, even though this is not as food truck a dense town as some towns are. But yeah, I think that's a really good idea too. You just partner up with them.
Mm-hmm.
And they park out in the parking lot. It's all good. Tacos, pizza, beer.
Yeah, I think food trucks is a really neat idea for doing that, because they're starting to be more popular around here too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like there's actually, there's a couple of mechanics on my way, and, there's a couple of places that I think rent out their parking lots to food trucks on the weekends when they're not using them.
David, is that something that, do they have food trucks around your area?
Yes, at Nature's Brewing, our local brewery, they bring in food trucks for lunch most days, and for evenings Thursday through Saturday, and there are different food trucks. They're gourmet level food trucks. It's not just chili dogs and burritos. It's good stuff, and it goes well with the craft beers that they serve in the brewery.
Nice. I would like that if I could get some tangine and naan to go with my traditional mead. It would be really awesome. I'll take a ginger mead and a double order of naan.
Well, that's one thing you could really get deep into the food pairings with if you do that. And if you're going to have your own restaurant too, I mean, you figure out, you figure out dishes that go well with a particular mead, or meads that go well with a particular dish.
Yeah, absolutely. Our goal was to hopefully try and incorporate the alcohol into the foods themselves when we could, but if not, to have the pairings there. And I think part of the reason that you don't see a lot of them is that restaurants themselves take a lot of time, money, and effort to develop. So a lot of places just tend to focus on the meat or whatever they're brewing instead of, going full into the food, because it's kind of, you're going to end up seeing something suffer if you're trying to do both.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you want to have somebody who their job, like you would be, making the meats, somebody else would be doing the foods, and the two of you collaborate, but, there's some autonomy there so that they can be creative in their area and you can be creative in yours.